Literally probably 5 to 7 years before I finally said, all right, I'm going to get into it.
So do I like the fact that I am my own business, right? Those things, and then being close to people who run business, and I don't want to deal with that.
Good of a job as you do, there's people that are not going to commit. All right, guys, welcome to the Strongville podcast. I'm Wendy, one of the co-owners of Cerus, and today I am joined by two guys that are very well established in the fitness industry, which is perfect for today's topic, which is the fitness industry. So first I've got Rob Delacruz. He is co-owner of Cerus Performance. He's owned a gym for over 15 years, trained people for even longer than that, former boxer, been dabbled in quite a few sports. And then we have Dom Dixon. He has a background in exercise science. He has a thriving online community and training program called Brick Built Strength, and former football player, and again, just all around athletic and knowledgeable guy. So welcome, guys.
Glad to be here.
First, the question is, what do you think the secret to success in the fitness industry is? I guess, Rob, let's answer that first. So, because as a 15-year gym owner and you've evolved over time, what do you feel like to be successful in the fitness industry, what does that entail?
Well, one is getting experience. That's probably number one. I see quite often, people right away, they get some certification and then they go right in and open one. Instead of being underneath someone, they can get a little bit of an apprenticeship. That and then education, those two things are the biggest. And it doesn't have to be academically, which is nice if they do get it, but just going and getting some certifications, and then you just have to go out there and practice. That's the beginning.
I couldn't have said it better. I think a lot of people, like you said, they either find an interest and then they open up a gym. I think the whole factor of not building a little dream and getting experience, seeing what you like, seeing if you're even equipped to handle a business, it's so missed. Oh, I like it. Let's open up a business. Find a problem, fix the problem. And then from there, you can open up your business if there's a calling for it. I think a lot of people think that it's the opposite way around. Open up a business and then I'll find a problem to fix.
Because like being a gym owner or being a successful trainer, those are two different things. Because a gym owner ends up not training as much and ends up having to do all this administrative stuff, which most of the time they were a trainer and now there's stuff they didn't like they're doing. But having the experience and going through people and seeing a lot of different people and seeing all the issues they could run into, and then seeing when you're training people that might not actually want to be there, then you'll see if you really want to keep doing it and loving it. Because I see a lot of times it changes people and they're like, they didn't want to train people anymore.
No. They fall in love with it too. I think some of the problems that come with being a gym owner or a business owner can drive you away from the thing that you once loved. I think for me, that was one thing I leaned into. Do I really want to open up a business, or do I like the fact that I am my own business, right? Those things, and then being close to people who run businesses, man, I don't want to deal with that. I love what I do, and I don't want to fall out of love with that. And I think that if you can differentiate the two, you can be more successful.
And I think, because I own a gym with Rob, and you could do the simple math in your head as an employee or a trainer and go, all right, if I have X number of clients at this much, I'm going to be rolling in it. But obviously there's overhead and there's issues and there's a churn rate with members. As good of a job as you do, there's people that are not going to commit. You know, the motivation's high at the beginning, and then so you're always replacing people. Once you have employees, that's a whole other set of issues. And honestly, nobody becomes a trainer or a gym owner to get rich.
No,
you know?
No. So that's not. And there's some that they do well and they're doing side projects, and some of the facilities do really well, but for a long time you don't at all.
No, not at all.
So you're saying the secret is first and foremost to get experience with a lot of people.
Yeah, that's number one, because what I see a lot of is, and there's certain certifications that promote, like you can just go and open one as soon as you do it. And it sounds like a good idea, but it is not.
Which leads me to my next question, and Dom, you'd be a good one to answer this. Do you think there's a proper timeline for someone to become an online trainer, or do you think, I got my NASM or whatever, I can just go right into online training? What do you think?
That's a really good question. I think a lot of people either do one or the other. They'll build a business online only, and then they're like, oh, well, I'm going to go ahead and start opening a business in person, and then one of the two suffer. I think for me personally, the one time you should open up it online is when you are able to reach people through educational content, right? So if I'm servicing people and they're inquiring me, but I can't get to them, then you'll do the online thing. But first, for me, it started off as giving away free education.
But do you think it's worthwhile to train people in person first, or do you feel like you could just start online?
I think you should train in person first. I think, like Rob said, experience is everything. And I will say, being in person for so many years, and then I went online, and then going back in person, it made me such a better trainer. Because when you're online, you have to convey some of the different cues and techniques verbally or through typing, and it's like, I can't really get to you, I got to do a demo. And then when you're in person, you're kind of like, all right, just move your leg here, move your foot over.
In real time.
In real time. So I think for me, experience is everything. And you can only get true experience in person, boots on the ground.
Right.
I'm thinking back with both of those questions. One is the same thing that you said is, I didn't want to train, even though people were trying to push me in that direction and knew me, and I was helping in training for free, a lot of people, that I didn't want to do as a job, something I really loved, because I was worried about losing a passion for it. And so literally probably 5 to 7 years before I finally said, all right, I'm going to get into it. And then it's a whole different ballgame when you get into it. You think a lot. And the same thing with the online. And I'm just jumping into it, but I'm 2 decades of training with people. And now you get online, which is a whole nother type of training, like you said. So the experience you need to understand and to see it over and over, then you can bring it online, and then you're going to have to learn a whole nother skill set with that.
And then just like owning a gym, it's that marketing yourself and putting it out there. So it's not just like I put it out in the world and they will come.
It's scary too.
The business.
You put something out there in the world, anybody like it? And you have that quiet whisper first when you throw something out there. All right, for training programs online, and then there's crickets, and you're like, should I have done this? And you're like, wait, I was so much better in person. Right. Talk face to face, and I'm a better business card in person. And I think that people get scared and they're like, oh, I'm gonna pull it back. Put it out there. If you've already mastered in person or you've had a lot of experience in person, it's okay to branch out, because then you can cast your net a little further. Right. And it also reflects what you do in person as well. It should match up. If not, you should be that much better in person.
Right. And a lot of times I think you have to prove yourself. Right now, our training templates, we're giving them away for free as a proof of principle that, okay, these are good, and in the future it's something I would pay for. Absolutely. So along that line of trainers, and I've seen personally in person, and then I'm sure online as well. So someone loses weight they found the love of fitness and they lost weight. So they decide, I'm going to become a trainer. Doesn't necessarily make them a good trainer. So now you're seeing athletes. We're familiar with the CrossFit space, so we see a lot of games athletes, or we see a lot of influencers in general, and just fitness influencers. And now they are programming and putting out programs. What do you guys think about that?
Well, I'll start out.
Take a deep breath.
The majority of what I see out there and the high-level athletes, the program is not that good.
No.
And
why do you think that is?
Well, the main problem is because they're not normal people.
Right. They're more resilient.
Yes, and their tolerance to things are way different than general population. And unless they're around it and they've coached a lot of people, which most of them haven't, because they were high-level athletes that were too busy doing that, training to be in the sport, they don't understand volume and reps and how breakdown and people can't recover. So the main problem that I see with that.
And it just saturates it. More options for people, which is not always great.
Right.
But they're like, oh, like he said, they're not relatable. So people who are high-level athletes, people who are just starting out, I want to inspire to be like that. So I got to do what they're doing. I got to do what they're putting out. Right. Then there's this huge gap, right? And there's no optimal range. Right. All right, I'm going to do this because they're doing it. And then they're like, well, I'm not getting any better. I'm actually going backwards. Because they think that's what they have to do. And people in their head are like, I'm good at this, so if I can bottle up what I know and sell it to somebody, they'll be just as good. They'll want to buy it. And that's one of my biggest pet peeves in the fitness industry is that.
And not only with athletes, though, with influencers. It's like the girl with the great physique and the big butt. I want to look like her. I have to do exactly what she's doing. And meanwhile,
she's doing something that's not going to make you look like that at all.
Right. It's genetic.
Absolutely.
But going into the CrossFit space, you're not even the same species almost. Most of the average people compared to those athletes, they're really tolerant. It doesn't matter almost what you give them. I could give Jeff some of the worst workouts, and he gets better. But if I do that to general population, they get way worse. So it's skewed. You don't understand. Well, they're just getting better, and they're just doing they can do this volume, and they can do this, and they're doing so many Metcons and aerobic training, but they're not really fundamental working on their movement. You can't do that. It just doesn't work that way.
And in that, Jason Brown, I don't know if you're familiar with him, he evaluates people's training programs honestly, and he'll touch on a lot of the influencers, and it's very high volume, overuse, and minimal rest periods. That all these things that should just be standard in a program are lacking.
And even Rob sends me a lot of these, and I love it because it shows me insight. Like being a primarily online guy, your biggest fear is giving somebody a program and it's not enough. And they're like, well, I just wasted my money. So what happens with these high-level athletes or influencers, they're like, I'm going to give you more than you need. And if you, in my head, you're not going to do everything, but people are still trying to achieve everything.
If it's written down, they'll do it.
And then they're like, I'm not getting any better. But in your head, you're like, well, I'll give you more than you need to, so you don't have to go to this influencer or that coach. Or I give you more than you need so that you will keep coming back for more money. And now I suckered you in. But in reality, I'm not doing what I'm putting out. I think the best trainers and programmers either have done the programs they're putting out, or they are knowledgeable enough through experience and training that they can write a program to meet this person at their needs.
And I think anyone who wants to do some sort of an online training program, great. There's some good ones out there. I really think, though, it's worthwhile, especially if you're newer, to get with in real life, to get with a trainer, because people don't understand what type of weight they should use, proper technique, all these things that if you just spend, it's an investment, but it's worthwhile. You get this base first and then go ahead and you're good on your own. But I think you can walk into any Globo gym and people that are doing their own programming or they're buying a program, the technique isn't even there, so they're not getting the benefit of it. So
well, it's what you see. We have like two different spectrums, the CrossFit spectrum, and that's got a lot to do with volume. How much volume, how much body parts are being used over and over again, how much low back, how are the shoulders, how are the workouts laid out. When your workouts are laid out, I take a games athlete and they put up this crazy workout and they fatigue them with handstand push-ups and then they got to go snatch. Well, that's entertaining and some of them are missing. I do that to general population. That's dangerous. So I go and I watch games athletes and their midline is getting really taxed from doing something, and then they get asked to go and lift something really heavy, and you can see some of them breaking down. Well, they're very tolerant. They're still going to pay the price. You go and you have general population do that. That's dangerous. So it's like the way you pair exercises and you set up workouts. So especially in the CrossFit. So if I go and I fatigue people with an air bike and then I ask them to do a complex movement, well, they might have to wait a second and go, but I didn't like mechanically fatigue any of the core muscles, but I go and I have you do some box jumps, deadlift, or handstands, and then all of a sudden I ask you to lift something really heavy. Now I got a problem. The potential for injury goes up exponentially.
And that comes back to our first point, experience. You're a good coach, you're a good programmer, and you have experience. You program from a bird's eye view. You're not, each day is its own entity, because like he said, general population, people get sore 24 to 36 hours after working out. Games athletes can do that compound movement, that small window of a couple hours in between sessions, two different energy systems, two different stimulus. But for general population, they need that separation. They need complementary programming throughout the week. And like he said, good pairing, which is not from most influencer athletes. They're like, give it all. Give them the whole kitchen sink. Figure it out.
Sore is good.
Sore, you're sore. Oh, that's good work. It drives me crazy.
All right. So, final question. Take your crystal ball out. What do you think is the next big trend in fitness? Kind of a broad question, but...
You want me to go first?
Sure.
So if you're paying attention to research and what everyone's saying and what they should do for exercise, and the physicians are starting to come around, and then if you have anybody you know, like which we have someone here that mentors us for Cerus, works around private equity a little bit. There's a lot of money on the sideline, and they're trying to figure out the next big franchise for resistance training. But what keeps on happening is that when they try to set it up with a group, it ends up becoming almost like a boot camp. And so there's going to be a bunch of those popping up, but whoever can figure out how to do a big group and then do it for multiple gyms in resistance training and make it entertaining for them to at least come in there, that's going to be the next big thing, because it's all the research is coming out as resistance training.
It is.
CrossFits are set up really well to do that. I always thought someone was going to come in and pick a bunch of them up and then make them look a certain way and then go for it, but nobody ever did. It was too scattered.
I think there's always going to be trends that are going to come and go, and I think, unfortunately, it's still going to be focused on fun and people feeling in the moment that they got a good workout. People come into our gym all the time and they don't, especially women, they say they don't like to lift weights. They don't feel like they're doing anything. But they want something that's fun. They want to be on the ground. But if they would take a step back and I think be in a mindset of performance, then it would become fun, because PRing is fucking fun. And watching your strength go up and your body fat down, that's fun as hell.
The results are fun. But one of the things I have this conversation with people, especially when they're new, you'll see them, they'll do a workout, some strength training, and then they're on a bike doing more. Because like I just felt like I didn't do enough. And in the beginning, moving 60 pounds and squatting it, you're not really doing that much. And it's not sending that big of a signal. But until you're ready with technique and I can get you stronger, it's going to be that. But if you keep on going on and doing extra, we might not get there. But once you're strong and you have good technique, then the exercise is potent. Everything you do is potent. Everything from lifting weights to doing cardio is much more potent. Take a stronger person and you put him on a conditioning workout, he's burning way more calories. Not that it's burning calories, but he's burning way more than an average individual that can't produce a lot of force.
All right, Dom, what's your trend?
Mine is the multiplying of people doing an exercise to a higher intensity, high rock. Like that stuff's the new trend. I think it's starting to be bled into the masses. Now it's like a selective group, like CrossFit training gyms are splitting the two. This is a high rocks workout, or this is still CrossFit. I think that's the trend. Hurry up and get to a max heart rate, and then be able to say, I did this for 40 minutes, right? Like that huge stimuli of, all right, I'm doing 40 minutes of run, lunges, sled push, half push-up. Those trends is starting to become multiplied. Now everybody wants to say, oh, I did this hard workout.
And now I need to do, a purpose.
Now I need to go recover, do the ice bath, do the sauna. Like that whole trend, it only comes with a hard workout. So I don't want to get into ice bath unless I've really exhausted myself for 30 to 45 minutes. That's the trend that people are doing. Moving moderately low weight at a higher frequency. So basically it's like a watered down CrossFit started. That's what I think the trend is going into.
I think you're right in the ability of that.
But I definitely think that you're onto something, because people love the David Goggins approach, and they love the 75 hard, and they love, so I think unfortunately that's going to be around. So, all right guys, thanks for your input on this one, and we'll see you all next time.